All right, the president and the Apple icon, Tim Cook, for the second time in 24 hours, they're going to be meeting face-to-face. Last night at that big dinner for the French president. Today, at the request of Mr. Cook, to sort of iron out things on trade, excuse me, and China. Market watchers Scott Martin, Joe Duran, and Stefanie Miller. Stefanie, how do you think this is going to go?
You know, I think that it could go a couple of ways, but I think it would be in the president's best interest to try to focus on taxes. But so far, we saw him tweet, and we've seen some comments. We think they're going to probably focus on trade. Now, when they focus on trade, Scott, the first thing that I'm sure Tim Cook is going to be concerned about is that don't throw out the high-tech baby with the bathwater here. I do a lot of business there. A lot of other technology companies do a lot of business there. So there is a needle to thread here. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's going to be huge, Neil. I mean, a lot of the parts of the iPhone are made in China and are fabricated there, so that's a big deal. But don't forget, you know, I think another piece to this is the intellectual property ideas, too, because remember, a lot of data we've been sending over to China, a lot of the ideas get stolen and kept there and get repurposed as their own stuff. So I think also, too, Tim Cook can give him some perspective on exactly what that works out as far as how Apple is dealing with the country.
You know, Joe Duran, these technology guys, I'm not saying they're politically all one way. I am saying they're politically all one way. So they are slightly to the left. And they were not big fans of this president. But they did like, obviously, the tax cuts. They did like a lot of the regulations lifted. So they have benefited to a man and woman from all of that, including Tim Cook. So how does Cook go into these discussions with the president?
I think he goes in giving clarity of what is at risk for U.S. jobs. That's what the president is clearly focused on, and growth in the United States, and making clear that China's retaliation will probably be on our technology, and that is our competitive advantage in the world. And if I suspect Tim Cook will speak to the president's higher calling of protecting the country, making sure we grow, and that requires the constant growth of technology, which is the asset we have that is very hard to have anyone else replicate.
You know, Stefanie, the president has long argued here that, and I've repeated so much that people probably get tired of hearing it, that the Chinese need us more than we need them. And every stance he has taken in these trade talks seems to echo that. Do you buy that, and that the Chinese will blink, that they will do something to satisfy him? Maybe not exactly and everything he wants, but some, if not a good chunk of what he wants.
You know, I was probably a little more skeptical than you were initially, but we're seeing them blinking right now. We're watching Lighthizer, so our top trade negotiator, and our Secretary of the Treasury, Mnuchin, are heading there now to negotiate. That's exactly what the president had intended by threatening these extremely large tariffs.
You know, you can look at all of this, Scott, and wonder then what's the fallout for technology in general. We're going to get Facebook earnings after the bell. Of course, there's a great deal of scrutiny of all of these guys, where some of the technology giants have been taking it on the chin, including Amazon. Is it your sense that their go-go bull times have ended, or at least slowed?
Slowed is a good word, Neil. I mean, tech has been really bumpy in the last few months and weeks. Certainly, you know, we had the Facebook hearings some weeks ago, and that obviously knocked down Facebook stock and some of the other data companies that have so much of our information these days and have shared it, obviously, to our detriment, maybe. But, you know, I'll tell you what's interesting about tech. If you look at tech amongst all the, say, 11 S&P 500 sectors, Neil, tech is the one, to me and to us, as far as how we own it and how we express it in our portfolios, that has the most earning power, the best cash flow going forward here. So if you're looking at taking some cash off the sidelines, I would put it right into tech on some of these dips.
You know, technically, as you remind me, Joe, you don't lose money until you cash out or sell something. And a lot of people are looking at what's happening to a lot of their tech holdings from their highs. Some have corrected 10% or more, and say, gee, maybe I should get out. How do you advise clients in general, given these volatile markets, particularly in tech where the volatility is really pronounced?
Well, first of all, it is the area where you can grow. But what is causing this decline is very clear to me and for us at United Capital, which is this is the increase of regulation. We have the EPA, which protects consumers from environmental issues, the SEC, which protects them from financial issues, the FDA for food and drugs, and we're going to have a data regulation agency that will be created. Now, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be with this Congress, but it's coming. and that will be a tax to a lot of these data companies. It's unavoidable. It's an area where consumers are at risk, and the government's job is to protect consumers. So it's coming. It will be a tax, but it will not stop the growth. It's just we've passed the peak earnings growth, the exponential growth. We're now in geometric growth. It starts to look a lot more like Apple than the Facebook that we've seen for the last 3 decades.
All right, guys, I want to thank you all very, very much. And we were looking at Apple and technology stocks, still taking it on the chin here. Facebook earnings are due out after the bell here.